Welcome to Solutions Rising. I'm Rachel Branch, and this is the beginning of my 13th year as creator and producer of Solutions Rising. And I always begin the new year of the beginning of my program honoring V, formerly Eve Ensler, Christine Schuler de Schrijver, both founders, among the founders of the City of Joy in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and honoring and praying, actually, for all the unnamed women and girls who are rape victim survivor. Those who have brutally suffered from rape as a weapon of war, those who are now being further brutalized after being raped in the form of starvation as a weapon of war. The assault on women and girls worldwide appears to me to be more and more aggressive and targeted. And each one of us must do whatever we can to stop the brutality wherever and whenever we can. I've been a member of 1 Billion Rising since March of 2012. And this year again, once again, we rise for freedom and the continued reach for solidarity. In 2025, we escalate our risings to be a powerful force against the devastation happening in the world today and how all of this affects women in particular. How do we escalate our risings to be bolder and more impactful, catalyze our imaginations, create art that can lift our spirits and raise the vibration, always centering those who are most oppressed and invisibilized? Our ever-evolving work is situated at the intersection of ending sexual violence, racism, war, colonialism, imperialism, occupation, and climate justice. We are grassroots, we are survivors, we are artists, we are activists. We have taken to the stage and the streets in the face of resistance time and time again. We have each other and each other's backs. We have each other and each other's backs. We have people's power, our voices and our connections. What we must continue to build now is our solidarity, our most powerful of all. We are 1 Billion Rising. In 2025, let our creative resistance be more outrageous, bold, united, fierce, and radical. Please join us in countries across the world from Friday, February 14th, V-Day, Valentine's Day, a day of love, to Saturday, March 8th, International Women's Day, to Tuesday, April 22nd, Earth Day. And I, of course, believe, I have just read from what 1 Billion Rising V-Day has sent to those of us who are members to tell you what this year's ongoing rise for freedom it means and what each of us can do. One of the things that 1 Billion Rising does is they do Zoom events, and I've been very grateful to have just watched one on the horrors that are going on in Sudan. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But each time I begin the year of Solutions Rising, I always honor Eve Ensler, formerly Eve Ensler. She's the author of the Vagina Monologues. And in quite a few years ago, I went to see her. I first met her years ago at the Northshire Bookstore, and she brought her book In the Body of the World. And this is a memoir of cancer and connection. And I want to read, and then I went to see this in New York, In the Body of the World, and it was just stunning. And this is what was written about her as a cast member, writer, and performer. V is the Tony Award-winning playwright, activist, and author of the theatrical Obie Award-winning phenomena, The Vagina Monologues, published in 48 languages and performed in over 140 countries. In 2019 and 2020, I was one of the performers at the Witt Performing Arts Center in Pittsfield as one of the performers in the Vagina Monologues. And it is performed every year, and it's a stunning play. V was last on stage in the Good Body Broadway National Tour. Her plays include Lemonade, Extraordinary Measures, Necessary Targets, OPC, and Emotional Creature. Her books include Insecure at Last, a political memoir, the New York Times bestseller, I Am an Emotional Creature, and her critically acclaimed memoir, In the Body of the World, adapted, debuted, and performed at the American Repertoire Theater. Film credits include The Vagina Monologues on HBO in 2002. She co-produced the film What I Want My Words to Do to You. V is founder of V-Day, the 20-year-old global activist movement to end violence against women and girls, which has raised over $100 million. V-Day led her to also found 1 Billion Rising, the biggest global mass action to end violence against women in over 200 countries. She is a regular contributor for The Guardian. She was named one of Newsweek's 150 women who changed the world and The Guardian's 100 most influential women. As I said, I met her at North Bookshire bookstore, and at the time, you had to write what you wanted her to put on her book. And when I met her, I was standing there with two young women, both of them rape victim survivors, high school students. And the three of us went up to her, and she just wrote on my book, this is 2014, love. And then in 2015, she was at the 62 Center in Williamstown. And at that time, I got up at the end, and I just thanked her for all that she had done for rape victim survivors. And she filled up, and I filled up, and I felt like I was absolutely alone in that auditorium, not realizing that the audience understood what was happening. And I had a picture with her. And after that, I told her that I had met her in 2014. She said she remembered. So she autographed my book again and put more love. First time love and more love. And of course, I think all of us who are fighting rape, and rape is a weapon of war, you must do it with love, and you must, I think, be there. And the other person, she's one of the founders of the City of Joy in Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is going through just horrific times. And one of the founders with her is Christine Mamasi Schuler de Schrijver. Christine Mamasi Schuler de Schrijver has called Bukavu her home all her life. That's where the City of Joy is located. She oversees all aspects of V-Day's work on the ground in the DRC, including the City of Joy, and coordinating campaign activities on the local, provincial, and national levels. She is an internationally renowned human rights activist who has worked as a teacher and administrator for CARE Canada, and for 13 years as an administrator for the German Technical Cooperation, where she oversaw a staff of over 100. She travels widely advocating for Congolese women's rights. I keep meeting, in fact, I did a couple of days ago at Jake's Java, I keep meeting other performers of the Vagina Monologues. And when this book is about Eve Ensler and her fight with cancer that nearly killed her, and her going back to Bukavu. And one of the chapters is called Second Wind. And there's a quote, "Live as if you were already dead." And it's a Zen admonition. And this is when she finds out that she is in the City of Joy. I am on Essence Road. It is after the rain. I am cancer-free 18 months. I know the crisis on Essence Road in Bukavu is the crisis in the world. Indigenous people starving as their government export their crops. Indigenous people making $1 or $2 a day, if they are lucky, as the West and the world pillage their plentiful oil, gold, copper, coltan, or tin. Women carrying insane loads, sacks, tanks, baskets, women putting their lives at risk and getting raped. Every time I take this journey, I force myself to look out at Essence Road, to pay attention to the details, to map the changes and outrages, insults as misery. I do not look away, and believe me, I want to look away. It's hot on Essence Road, it's crowded, and it's impossible. Most of the people here have fled violence. Nearly everyone have left their homes. Most are traumatized, dislocated, orphaned, hungry. Essence Road burns in me, and I would be lying if I didn't tell you that some days when I consider why Essence Road and so many roads like it exist all over the world, I have violent fantasies. I think of rapacious greed, the hunger for more and more, the tiny percentage of those who have everything and the majority who have nothing. In my rage, I imagine the overthrow of corporations, industrial destroyers, rapists, corrupt leaders, and the arrogant and disinterested rich. Some days I think there will be no other way. None of the powers that be will voluntarily give up their private holdings and their dreams. I try to explain to myself how I can be having such murderous fantasies about uprising and revolution when I have spent my life devoted to ending violence. And the only answer I can find is also on Essence Road, the City of Joy. Each time I arrive there, I am reminded again and again that we can build the new way, build the new world, birth the new paradigm. I do not know how to end the war in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I don't know where governments end and corporations begin. I cannot show you exactly how the mining of coltan that is in your cell phone is linked to Jean being raped in her village. I don't know how to move the UN Security Council or Secretary General or the European, British, or Canadian Parliament or Congress or Downing Street or the White House, and I have made impassioned visits to all these places and have left each time crushed and bewildered. I do not know how to arrest the war criminals or the corporate exploiters. I do know that the minute I enter the City of Joy, everything seems possible. It is green and clean. It is the lotus rising from the mud. It is the metaphor for a new beginning, for building a new world. 3 of the 10 principles governing the City of Joy are A, tell the truth, B, stop waiting to be rescued, and C, give away what you want the most. And just the last couple of days, I watched a Zoom that 1 Billion Rising put on, which was talking with the women in Sudan. And V is going to join the City of Joy and the women of Sudan. And it's the same horrific story over and over and over again. And V-Day and 1 Billion Rising are now going to start a program, a campaign for the Sudan. The details of Sudan are devastating. This will be a solidarity campaign. She's joining the City of Joy, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, that has been existed for 15 years. This will also, again, address racism and uncaring exploitation of women. It will try to discuss sanctions for attacks on women and increase this ongoing global solidarity. There's quite a few ways that, and of course, at Solutions Rising, I always want to talk about solutions. And these are some of the things that came out in that program for 1 Billion Rising for the Sudan, but also for the women in Sudan. I wrote down 8 things that talking about solutions, and these are things that each one of us can do in our lives when we see, or if you become involved. And I hope you will join 1 Billion Rising. It's 1billionrising.com, and be part of any of the activities. And of course, this starts on February 14th, and it's every day for me and for most of us who are involved. But some of the things that are, if you are trying to help across the world, one is documentation. And one of the things that City of Joy and unnamed broken rape victim survivors is the need for psychosocial support, and they need safe spaces. And the other thing that I just mentioned, reading, the UN Security Council attempts to try to get the United Nations continually to really attempt to resolve this horror show that's going on. And of course, I use the word unconscionable. They're just terrific attempts and killings and brutalization of women and girls around the world, and here in the United States also. So ongoing attempts to get resolutions passed by the United Nations Security Council, and I guess the last resolution was vetoed by Russia. And you want the UN to install sanctions against perpetrators and enablers. And then you want people around the world to have access to the documentation. And of course, any of these actions to solve these, you need the inclusion of women. And then, of course, funds to support. And always, I will say, please support 1 Billion Rising with your contributions, and you can designate it to the City of Joy. And I would imagine you could also designate it for the women of Sudan. And 1 Billion Rising has been doing this years. They're out in San Francisco. And we have to keep here in the United States and around the world supporting solidarity of women. And that is so important. And you start that, this is my own belief, right on the local level. You start it right here if you're listening to Solutions Rising, and become part of it. And you will see where you can find your own way of giving and stopping this brutalizing attack on women and girls. And I do believe the assault on women and girls worldwide in my lifetime is increasingly worse, and it is frightening, and we just must do each and everything that we can possibly do. And the other part that can be helpful is to mobilize across the world. Find allies from whatever your circle is. If it's local, find it state or nationally. If you're connected worldwide, find it internationally, and use the media in any way you can. Letters to the editor, if you And of course, we will continue to use Solutions Rising any way we can to highlight the need for really addressing the assault on women and do everything we can to stop rape as a weapon of war, and violence against women and girls and children and the most vulnerable. It is that important. It is incredibly present today. And I think if you could accent on women and girls and fight for peace, it starts right there with women and girls. And it seems like this is a no-brainer to think about supporting women and girls in the most horrific circumstances. And as I have said before, I am one of the multi-rape victim survivor. And I will never, ever forget or stop talking about those victim survivors who are so broken they cannot speak. And I will continue to use Solutions Rising any way I can to try to stop the violence and the horrific, brutal attacks on women and girls and the vulnerable. So I know I could go on for hours talking about this, but I will ask you once again, please support 1 Billion Rising and contribute if you can. We will put the address on the end of this program, and you can mail a check or you can go to 1billionrising.org online and donate. And as I say at the end of each program, if each one of us picked up one problem and solved it, imagine the incredible view we would all have of Solutions Rising. Please be part of the solutions, especially in this time when there is so much horror going on. We must each stand firm in our place and stand up and speak up. Thank you.